Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here today with Kaitlyn Garifi. Did I say that right?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. She's an electrical engineering PhD student at CU Boulder, and she studies integrating renewable resources into the grid. And she's here to tell us a little bit about what she studies, what electrical engineering is, and how you could get into a career in electrical engineering if that's something you're interested in the future. Thanks for being with us here today, Kaitlyn.
My pleasure.
Awesome. So for those people who don't know, could you start by telling us just a little bit about what is electrical engineering in general?
So I can't 100% tell you about everything in electrical engineering because
Totally fine. Big field.
it's a huge field, number one. Number two, what's really great about kind of higher education, so going for a master's or a PhD, you don't necessarily have to have a degree, an undergraduate degree in what you're going after. So I actually don't have a formal education in electrical engineering. My undergraduate was in math and bioengineering, so something very, very different. So if there's a lesson there, it's like, pick what you love and go do it, and what you're passionate about. Like, you can learn anything you want. Like,
Okay.
I don't know.
So
I can't 100%.
No, that's totally fair. So
Like,
could you tell us then, like, a little bit about what you do now then?
Yeah. So where I'm at in my program is that, like, within the year I'll have my PhD, which is super exciting. So right now my job looks like a standard kind of 9-to-5 job where I have a problem to solve and I work on that all day. And what I'm so do you want the details of, like, kind of like,
yeah, or at least like the cliff notes?
Yeah, totally. So what I work on is looking at different parts of the power grid. So there's it's divided into about 3 parts. So there's the kind of where it starts, which is the power generation, and so that's being that's super high voltage. It's being carried long distances, and then from there's a middle section that takes it from, like, these like closer to your home, and then there's the end part where it's gonna go from, like, kind of the wires and then power everything in, like, your home, businesses, commercial buildings, or industrial buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mainly focus on the beginning and the end. And kind of the name of the game is, now that we've got all of these different renewable sources, how do we operate our grid, like, from when we need to get it to meet our demand, like the grid operators have to know what to expect from us in terms of our demands. So that's why actually COVID is super cool from a grid operation perspective. So pretty much,
what's the problem you're trying to solve, I guess? So, like, what does that question make sense?
Okay. So I'm trying to optimize what power gets used to serve a load. Or the demand, like.
So are you working with, like, multiple sources of energy?
Yeah. So okay. Yeah, definitely. So yes, we have the generation, the traditional generation dispatch. So those are like that's like nuclear, the big turbines, like steam, or sorry, natural gas and coal. So we've got those. And then, but we also have wind, we also have solar, and those are concentrated in certain areas of the country. And that's a very interesting problem, because, like, not everywhere in the country has good wind resources.
Right. Or solar, or lots of sun, or.
Exactly. And then where people live don't even align with those places either. So, like, wind energy is normally carry super long distances to get to your home or wherever you need your electricity. It's most relatable when you talk about like charging your iPhone or whatever.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, trying to like optimize what how the power is flowing on all of the lines, and increasing the renewable energy, and also with the renewable energy we have, like what traditional stuff do we still need? So the nuclear, natural gas, and coal.
So do you work with like, so are you writing, so you write code?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So are you designing programs that kind of optimize which power goes to which people? If I understand right?
It's a little, yeah, basically, but
on a real like surface level,
like on a little bit like of a higher level, like we can't control like electrons like that, but we can control like how much we're dispatching from like a nuclear, well, kind of nuclear, not really, but especially natural gas and coal. Like we can tell that plant how many megawatts we need. And yeah, those, sorry.
Okay, no, you're good. Yeah. I'm just trying to piece it together. So like, so does it have to do with, I'm just drawing on my prior knowledge here. I can be totally wrong for all I know. So like, it's my understanding, right? So like wind and solar power are like kind of inherently unpredictable.
Yeah.
There's like gaps and you have to fill in those gaps with the like more with burning stuff, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah. Whatever.
So, yeah, whatever those, whether it's coal or natural gas or nuclear, or whatever, something more predictable. So you have to figure out what sources to use when.
Yeah, given the forecasts and the uncertainty of those forecasts.
Gotcha. So it's kind of some predictive stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking at the weather and trying to figure out if there's going to be sun or wind, and then compensating for that and adjusting the grid to match.
Exactly. Okay. And then also predicting people's habits. And so that's why COVID has been so interesting, because our uses are just so different, or how we're using electricity is just super different. Even on every single sector. So not just residential, but like industrial, commercial, transportation, like it's just, it's crazy different. It's so interesting.
Okay, wow, that's super cool. Okay, just out of curiosity, I was planning on asking this, but how has like power usage changed?
We're seeing the loads kind of in the middle of the day reach their minimum, approach our minimum dispatch. So it's really expensive to turn off a traditional or natural gas or a coal generator. A nuclear plant is likely never going to be turned off because you can't ramp those easily, like up or down, change like kind of how many electrons you're putting out. And so you never want to turn them off for both coal and natural gas, because it's expensive. And so they've got a minimum dispatch. And so you're seeing with so in the middle of the day when we've got a bunch of solar, maybe a bunch of wind, we're seeing the load kind of dip. And so it's like, so yeah, it's getting really close to kind of like having to turn things off.
So are we using less power overall then?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And because a lot of the factories help us balance, like like the commercial and industrial buildings or like customers to these utilities really help balance the demand, because their demands are so huge. It helps, like, I mean, of course there's cycles. Of course you can see the cycles when people wake up and people go to bed. But like this really makes the swings a little bit more drastic.
Interesting.
I can send you a report that's really cool.
Sure.
That's like very human readable.
Okay, cool. I'll put it in
like
the.
I'm gonna send you this like
this like technical document. Yeah.
No.
Okay, cool.
I mean, like it's got some cool plots in it that like I don't know. You
okay,
can like definitely see like
cool.
changes in the years.
Maybe I'll make my kids. Maybe I'll make my students analyze it.
Yeah.
Be me.
It's pretty cool.
For those of you who are just happen to be watching this, I'll link that document. Is that okay to share it with anybody? Okay, cool. I'll put a link to it in the comments if anybody wants to take a look at it.
Yeah.
For you nerds out there. Cool. Cool. Okay, we got totally off track. What's my next question? And so, how did you get here? Can you tell us a little bit about your like educational journey or work experience, or what does it take to become an electrical engineer?
So, a lot of really cool like things just lined up. I ended up going to grad school because I thought I wanted to be a professor. That is not the case anymore.
Can we scoot back a step? Just like so.
Oh.
Yeah, no, totally. Just for the high schoolers who are watching this. Can we go from like high school forwards?
Yeah, so I guess I always liked math. I liked everything else too, but I guess math, it just seemed like a little bit easier. That could have also just been like, like being forced to do like practice workbooks over the summer by your parents. So maybe it like seemed easier at the time, but it was hard at one. Like, I mean, everything's hard, right? Like it's just like what you're willing to sit there and learn and like force yourself to learn. So I always enjoyed math. I think I always just enjoyed like watching like things like big systems like just work out, right? Like if you think of a factory, like all these parts just work together and then you like get this product out of the factory. And I've always found that interesting. Like airports, like ever since I was little being in airports, I'm like, these planes are kind of like the coordination amongst everyone, like to make airports work. Like I've always been fascinated with that. So I went to college. I'm a first generation college student. So that makes me a little bit different. Yeah, it's really cool. And yeah, then I went to.
Where'd you go to college? Just for the reference. Where'd you go to college?
Where?
Mm-hmm. For the viewers. I know.
I went to University of California, Santa Cruz. I came in thinking I wanted to be a doctor of medicine, not a doctor of electrical engineering.
As many people did.
Yeah, being a first generation student, you don't really know all of the different stories out there or all of the different jobs. Like you know the ones that you see every day, but like growing up, I'd never seen an engineer. And so it wasn't until like I had a couple, so I came in pre-med, but I also always was declared math. So I was going to double major always because I was like, why not? Like, I love it.
It's a very bold double major choice.
Yeah.
Pre-med and mathematics.
Yeah, I had a couple friends on swim team with me that were like, if you don't like biology and chemistry, like, why are you doing this? And I was like, good point. And so I took a quarter off of my like being on the pre-med track and took one electrical engineering, one computer engineering, and one computer science class. And I fell in love. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is like what I'm meant to do. It was like, it just like, it made sense. Like, I mean, of course I had to study, like nothing's easy. Yeah. Like I'm not one of those kids that never have to study. Like I have to work very, very hard for everything. Yeah.
And computers aren't easy. Yeah.
And no, computers like, have you ever tried to work a printer? No.
Real often.
So it just like, so then I was, like towards the end, like, so then I switched my major to, bioengineering because I had taken all of these bio and chemistry classes, but then by switching my major to that, it allowed me to take only upper division computer engineering and electrical engineering classes for the rest of my undergrad. And through those classes, those upper division classes, I learned that I really like algorithms, like programming algorithms, and like looking at like kind of optimizing certain outputs given different inputs. And so that problem, like whatever it be, the airports, the factories, the power grid, like these problems, like they all kind of have like, you're trying to run these things as efficiently as possible. They have very different constraints, but they're like these huge problems that just like have to work. It's like, it's crazy. They're so interesting.
Yeah. And they're so big. They're so like big. And
there's
like so much work you can put into them. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like yeah. And like the small parts like really do make a difference. But yeah, so I guess like that's how I got into where I'm at now. I know that was a really long-winded answer, but like I think if you ask a lot of people, like nobody's like, or not nobody.
It's not a grammar video. We have a lot of people kind of end up where they are, not by accident, but it's like you have to try things and see what you like and what you don't like, and it's hard to know until you kind of get your feet in there.
Exactly. To this day, like I'm learning like these completely new fields and learning from people in those fields that are like tangential to mine, but also like completely aid them, and it's amazing. Like everything. I don't know. It's just like it's a very like non-linear path, but here I am.
And then, so did you go to grad school straight out of undergrad?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
And I went in with only a bachelor's degree, which is just that's some people come in with a master's already, and so they might know more than you coming in with just a bachelor's. So you just like
figure it out. Yeah. Oh, fair enough. Yeah. Also learn from people. Work. And then so after this, you said you were thinking about becoming a professor, but you changed your mind. What do you want to do after this?
So I want to go work at a national lab for the Department of Energy, and work on the really cool problems they have. A lot of them are very closely related to what I've been working on with my PhD. But yeah, like working on incorporating like maybe the role of batteries.
So you want to go work on some real grids on like a big national level?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool,
Like
cool.
The national labs are lucky because they get like utilities that will come to them with their problems, or no, they're like
challenges. Yeah, sure.
And yeah, so occasionally you'll get some like real
some real world
problems,
cool.
But yeah, that sounds like what I want to do, and then you get to just work with other people who are just as nerdy as you and care about the power grid or whatever problem you're working on, whatever large scale like fun optimization problem I can get my hands on.
Awesome. Okay, I got just a couple more questions.
Yeah. Sorry. And if you need to rush me along, like you're just be like, great.
you're good. You do it. You're great. So the next two kind of go together. I'm going to ask you both, what's your favorite thing about your job, or what you do, or what you study, however you want to contextualize that. And then what's the most challenging and the most difficult thing for you? And if you want to take those in whatever order.
Okay, so the most fun one, that's just, that's like super easy. Like there's so many things. Being able to work on the power grid and work on renewable energy and understand like what it takes to go or to meet these really ambitious energy targets. Like it's super rewarding. Going to grad school is great because you get or going for a PhD is really great because you get to be an expert in something. So that's really great. You get to be surrounded by fellow nerds. your job prospects afterwards, like you're still going to be surrounded by fellow nerds. So like, does life get better? No. In term, like, I don't know, like, it's just like, I feel pretty lucky. There's so many good things I'm probably not mentioning, but like, I get to work on cool problems, like the power grid being one of them, other large scale problems that are very important. Those are cool. Yeah, just getting to work on that type of stuff. The one challenging part is that like there's no solutions manual. You like, I mean, but that's life, right? Like,
you got to figure it out.
Yeah, and so I think that's sometimes like stuff just doesn't work, and like the best thing you can do is actually just like stop and like take a break or work on something else, because like just like tunnel visioning in on something isn't going to help. Normally, depends on when your deadline is.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Sometimes you just got to get it done.
The due date of this assignment is, or whatever. But yeah, it's like there's no solutions manual, so you're creating like original ideas to solve like very challenging problems. But that also goes, so then I guess that challenge of like not having a solutions manual can go into a good thing too, because being a grad student, like you're on your kind of your own schedule, which is like kind of what's really appealing about being a teacher. You know, like,
right, you can live that academic life.
Yeah. And so a really nice part is the flexibility, to just like walk away and be like, you know what, like I'm not making any progress, like I'm going in circles, like this problem's really hard, like all problems are hard. So just like, yeah, that flexibility is amazing. Like me pre and post COVID, or in during COVID, are not very different people.
You're still doing your thing. Awesome. And then last question. Is there anything you'd like to say to young people, or any advice you'd give young people who want to either like help the world or become scientists or engineers? Or
first, going back to kind of my first answer of like how I got to where I am, don't be afraid to like change what you're doing. Like it takes a lot of courage to say like, hey, I'm good at this, but like I'm way better at this other thing, and like making that switch. I know like you're going to be happier like normally if you make that switch. So do that. But then also find what you like. Like try different things. Like if you're pretty sure you love like computer science, but it turns out you're like very curious about biology, go do it. Like if what's the worst thing that can happen? You learn something. Like I don't know.
How terrible.
Like it's not that bad. So yeah, have the courage to switch, ask questions. Always ask questions. Never be afraid to ask questions. That's coming from somebody like who is a minority in their field. Like ask them. Don't have any shame. And just like you may hate math, but it'll carry you. It'll like if you just like give it the time, like it will. If you want to, like, especially in engineering, like your math skills will carry you through any field. You can switch to any field you want as long as you like look at things like, hey, this is just an equation that describes this. So, yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. If you're watching this and you still have any questions, feel free to drop them into the comments, and I'd be happy to forward them on to Kaitlyn. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, guys.